Do y'all remember that episode of Moesha where she really committed credit card fraud to bail her little thug boyfriend out of jail? Yeah, that episode. Let's talk about it. Hello. I'm True Crime Queen, and we're back with another episode of Moesha. If y'all don't know, Moesha was a sitcom that ran from 1996 to 2001 and is centered on Moesha Mitchell, a smart, outspoken Black teenage girl navigating high school, family, friendships, relationships, and more in Los Angeles, California. The show followed her life with her father Frank, stepmother Dee, and little brother Miles while highlighting real-life issues that teens faced. So the episode starts out when we're in Moesha's Jeep with this terrible 90s CGI. I mean, look at this. It looks terrible by today's standards, but it's nostalgic, so it works for me. But the show wants us to believe Moesha and her best friends, Kim, who's in the passenger seat, and Niecy, who's in the back seat, are just cruising around Los Angeles, California, where they all live and the show is set. Then we get to hear Moesha's inner monologue, which the show is famous for. In it, she explains a car is an extension of how we see ourselves and what we hope to become. Then the Jeep dissolves into her actual car, which is this crazy looking contraption that's actually a Volkswagen 181. Then we hear that because Moesha turned down the Saturn that her dad offered her for free because it wasn't the Jeep she wanted, she pulled her limited funds together and got the basic transportation that we see her driving. You know what's really a hunk of junk? Because she even has to use pliers to use the radio. And the three girls sink down into their seats when they pass by guys who they think are cute. Alright, so now Moesha shows up at her dad Frank and stepmom Dee's door, trying to reassure them that she made it home safe. They yell back all casual like, "We heard you, good night." But Moesha isn't having it. She keeps banging on the door and tells her dad that she needs to talk to him. He answers and Moesha says Niecy needs a ride home, and Frank tells her to just take her and closes the door. Moesha says she can't because she ran out of money and gas, which is why she's late coming home. Frank then gives her the keys to his car and closes the door back. Moesha continues to bang on the door when Dee answers, clearly agitated from Moesha pestering them. It's also implied by this point that Frank and Dee were having private time since they're trying to have a baby, and Moesha asks with a smirk if she interrupted something. When Dee asks what she wants, Moesha says she needs Frank to go with her to Crenshaw Boulevard because her car is parked in front of a bus stop. Frank finally offers to help her, then we transition to the next scene, which is the following morning. Now we're in the kitchen where Moesha is making breakfast and greets Frank, who tells her that they need to talk about what she did last night. Dee points out that this is already the third time Moesha's run out of gas since getting the car. Then her little brother Miles chimes in and corrects her that it's actually the fourth time since she even jacked him for $5. That's when Frank asks the real question: what is she doing with her money, especially since he gave her $50 for her birthday, specifically for emergencies? Now, quick side note, I had to look that up because in late 1996, that $50 would be about $103 today, which is better than nothing, but let's be real, that's still not going to stretch very far. We learned that Moesha spent the money on an outfit for a party, which she deemed an emergency. Moesha says she didn't mean to spend the $50, but doubles down and asks Frank how many emergencies the $50 was supposed to cover. I mean, she's asking the right questions. She then goes on to list the things she's had to pay for to maintain the car, like gas, steering fluid, air freshener, pliers. Moesha then asks for a credit card, which Frank shuts down immediately. Next, we see Moesha's other friend and next door neighbor Hakeem, who's always over at the house eating since his mom is basically never home because she's always at work. Frank continues to tell Moesha no to the credit card. Dee, who began to see Moesha's side, says she has a point since her car isn't in the best condition. But Frank reminds her that he already bought her a perfectly good car with roadside service, and she turned it down, which happened in a previous episode. Because like I said earlier, she turned down the Saturn, which is honestly crazy as hell to me to turn down a perfectly good free car just because it wasn't the one she wanted, but I digress. Moesha said she was young and didn't know, even though it was only the season before, and said she would actually take the car if he were to offer it to her now, which spoiler, he doesn't. Then Dee gets in Frank's ear and says this:
"Please, Frank, if not for her, then do it for us."
And Frank finally agrees to get Moesha a credit card and says it's for emergencies only, and she agrees. Then we go to the next scene and we're back in Moesha's dumpster of a car with Hakeem in the front and Kim in the back. And Moesha's boyfriend, Quentin, who goes by Q, approaches and tells Hakeem to get in the back. Kim, who's had a huge crush on Hakeem since forever, also tells him to get in the back with her. Hakeem, who is repulsed by Kim since she comes on way too strong for some reason, gets out and offers to walk to the party that they're going to, which is in Beverly Hills, and it's implied that it will be a very far and practical walk. So Hakeem reluctantly climbs into the back and tells Kim to scoot over and not to try anything. Moesha has trouble shifting gears in the car since it's a stick shift and she just got her nails done. Q offers to drive instead, but Moesha is hesitant since Frank told her not to let anyone else drive. But against her better judgment, she lets him drive anyways. So now we're in Beverly Hills and the group gets stopped by a cop on a motorcycle. They instantly start freaking out and arguing with each other right before the cop approaches. Q says everyone should relax and the cop might think that he's Tupac Shakur. But Q manages to get everyone to quiet down and says he'll do the talking. But then Moesha says this.
Why did you stop us? Don't you have black people in Beverly Hills?
Your license and registration, please.
Why are you harassing us? I mean, shouldn't you be arresting Robert Downey Jr. again?
As the cop starts getting irritated, Q asks him how he wants to conduct the arrest, Rodney King style or Dr. King style. For context, Rodney King was a black man brutally beaten by LAPD officers in 1991 in an incident caught on tape that later sparked the 1992 LA riots. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested multiple times during the civil rights movement for nonviolent protest, including the Birmingham campaign in 1963. The cop says he was going to let them go until homegirl, meaning Moesha, mouthed off. Then he calls Q Mr. Shakur, which implies that he thinks that Q is Tupac. Which, fun fact, Fredro Starr, who plays Q, and Tupac were familiar with each other during the 90s hip-hop scene. And side note, Tupac has always been my favorite rapper of all time. In the next scene, we have Moesha, Hakeem, and Kim at a jail in Beverly Hills where we learn that Q was jailed at. Apparently, he was arrested for a jaywalking ticket that's $375 since it was on Rodeo Drive. Side note, I don't know how the hell he got a jaywalking ticket if he was driving, but whatever. Moesha said she only had $22 and asked Kim and Hakeem how much they have. And Hakeem says,
Man, all I got is a stick of gum and a picture of my mom.
Since nobody has any cash, Hakeem suggests Moesha just use her credit card. Moesha shuts that down at first, saying that it's for emergencies only, but of course Kim pipes up and argues that the party definitely counts as an emergency. That takes us to the next scene where we're at the Den, which was the local teen hangout spot that Moesha hung out at with her friends. And we see that Q was out of jail and seated with Moesha, Kim, Niecy, and Hakeem. Q hands Moesha back the money she paid for his bail and tells her, "Thanks for looking out, kid," because he's from New York. Moesha thanks him and tells him that it only solves half her problem since she'll have to explain the charge on her credit card statement to her dad. Q tells her to calm down since his friend Donnie can do anything with a computer. Donnie then arrives at the Den where he's immediately stopped by Andel, the owner and occasional mentor to Moesha and her friends, and asks him why he hasn't stopped by to fix her computer since she's already paid him, but he tells her that he'll hook her up soon. Already he gives skeevy, icky vibes, and you'll see why in a moment. He then approaches the table with the group where Moesha begins to explain the charge issue, but is interrupted when Kim clears her throat loudly to signal that Andel was approaching to put a drink on the table, and she asks why they're so quiet.
My dad's credit card. Here you go, Kim. Why y'all so quiet? We just chilling. You know how we do it.
Donnie asks what she needs, and she explains that she needs a charge erased off her dad's statement. When Moesha asks if it's possible to do this, he says this.
That's Mariah Carey.
Why?
Now, I know you don't think she sold that many records.
I'll do the best I can with what I got. Oh!
Moesha was still hesitant about if the plan would actually work or not, and Q reminds her of the consequences since she's already in too deep.
When he gets the bill, just tell that to Kitty. Don't want you hanging out with. He's driving the car he told you not to let nobody drive. Got pulled over by police. Went to jail, had to bail him out with the credit card he told you only use on emergencies. That's all.
In the next scene, we're back at Moesha's house in her room where Donnie is suspiciously close to her while she works on her computer. Then, right when they're about to kiss, her little brother Miles walks in on them and Donnie leaves.
Ooh, busted!
Now we're back at the Den where Niecy and Kim are both hanging out. Hakeem comes in and reveals that Moesha is in a love triangle with Q and Donnie, which he heard about from Miles. Kim doesn't believe this since Miles is only 9 years old, which is honestly valid. But he definitely starts the truth a bit because Hakeem points out that Miles actually caught Donnie and Moesha hugged up on her bed at her house. And that was a whole week after he helped her fix the credit card situation. Just then, unbeknownst to Hakeem, who's talking loudly about the situation, Q walks in the Den and Niecy and Kim try to get him to stop talking about it. Q approaches and asks what he's talking about, and Hakeem quickly lies and says that they were discussing how Moesha wears a weave. And then Q asks where Moesha is. Now we're back at Moesha's house where she's still actively cheating on Q because she's sitting on the couch with her dinosaur of a laptop and surfing the web, which honestly I didn't even know that you could do in 1996, but apparently they had chat rooms and everything. But Donnie said why don't they go up to her room and chat? Moesha tells him that she appreciates him helping with the credit card situation, but asks him what do you think is going on here? Donnie says they're just two compatible people looking for a higher form of self-expression, which foolishly Moesha falls for. Just before they kiss, they're interrupted by a doorbell and it's Q. Q and Donnie instantly get into each other's faces, with Moesha in the middle, and it looks like they're about to fight.
You know what? We were doing that computer thing with the. Y'all, please don't fight up in my house.
Just then, we hear Frank and Dee outside, and in a move that would literally only happen in a sitcom, Moesha throws Q and Donnie in the living room closet. Just then, Frank, Dee, and Miles walk in with groceries, and Dee asks Moesha for a hand before walking into the kitchen. Moesha then opens the closet door, where Q and Donnie are still very quietly shoving each other for some reason, and promptly kicks them out. In the kitchen, Frank is on the phone disputing a bill that we quickly learn is about the credit card. Moesha, seeing the writing on the wall, tries to quietly escape out the back, but Frank asks her to get a pencil so he can write down each and every charge.
Beverly Hills Police Department.
Yeah, we then jump into the last scene of the episode, where we get Moesha's closing monologue and see that Frank is removing her phone from her room. We then learn that Frank refused to believe the police department charge was his and threatened to bring in his attorney to fight it, which is when Moesha finally confessed. And her relationship with Q remains ambiguous. Y'all, this episode was crazy. First of all, how the hell did Q get a jaywalking charge if he was driving? And why would that even be an arrestable offense? Like, I think it honestly would have made more sense if he was charged with something like driving without a license or a probation violation, since it's implied throughout the show that he's kind of a troublemaker, but whatever. And although I don't agree with her actions of using the credit card without permission, looking at it from Moesha's point of view, I think that she felt guilty and that it was her fault that Q got arrested because she caught an attitude with a cop who got annoyed and locked him up. Then there's Donnie. Now in this episode, Moesha is obviously not innocent because she was definitely in the wrong for inviting him over to the house and up to her room. Like, girl, you literally only know him through your boyfriend and you're chilling with him after he starts flirting with you, so it's not like you didn't know what his intentions were. I mean, why can't they have just met up at a local library or something? I think Moesha liked the attention of having two dudes interested in her at the same time. And for Donnie to do that to his best friend is definitely wrong of him too, and Q was right to be pissed off at both of them. I definitely think that Moesha deserved to be grounded and lose her phone privileges, so good on Frank for laying down the law as always. And with that being said, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Love you, bye!